The theory of anima and animus. Carl Jung proposed that every individual possesses both masculine and feminine aspects within them. The anima, for men, and the animus, for women. These inner figures represent the opposite gender traits and ideals that exist in our unconscious minds. When you meet someone who feels incredibly beautiful or captivating, it might be because you are subconsciously projecting your own anima or animus onto them. For example, if you are a man, you might meet a woman who embodies your idealized feminine traits: grace, intuition, nurturing, triggering a deep attraction that seems almost otherworldly. However, Jung would suggest that this attraction isn't necessarily rooted in reality, but rather in your unconscious projections. You might be drawn to the person because they symbolize these internal ideals, but the lack of a real connection may prevent anything substantial from developing between you two. The anima and animus shape how we perceive and interact with the opposite sex, often influencing romantic desires. However, if there is no alignment with deeper, shared personal growth or mutual understanding, even a seemingly perfect connection can remain unfulfilled. The collective unconscious and archetypes. Jung introduced the concept of the collective unconscious, a shared layer of the unconscious mind that is common to all humans, containing universal experiences and archetypes. These archetypes are fundamental symbols and patterns that shape our thoughts, behaviors, and perceptions. When you encounter someone who seems incredibly beautiful or fascinating, it could be because they resonate with an archetype within your collective unconscious. For instance, you might meet someone who embodies the hero or caregiver archetype, triggering a profound sense of admiration or connection. However, despite the intense attraction, this connection may not evolve into something deeper because the relationship is more about encountering an archetype than interacting with the actual person. In Jung's view, we often project these archetypes onto others, seeing them through a lens of symbolic meaning rather than as whole, independent individuals. This projection can create an illusion of beauty and perfection, but without mutual emotional and psychological alignment, nothing substantial may come of it. Psychological projection. One of Carl Jung's key ideas is psychological projection, which refers to the unconscious process of attributing one's own feelings, desires, or aspects of the self onto another person. When you meet someone who seems exceptionally attractive, you may find yourself projecting qualities or ideals onto them that are not necessarily present in reality. For instance, if you're yearning for a deeper connection, you might project a sense of completeness or perfection onto this person, seeing them as the embodiment of everything you desire. However, this is not necessarily who they truly are. It's simply your unconscious mind overlaying your own feelings and needs onto them. This process can create an illusion of an ideal connection or a profound attraction, but when you realize that this idealization isn't based on reality, it can lead to the realization that the person you met, while beautiful, isn't someone you can truly connect with on a deeper level. The beauty and attraction were a projection of your own unconscious desires, and without a deeper understanding of each other, the connection fails to materialize. Synchronicity and meaningful encounters. Jung believed in the concept of synchronicity, which is the idea that events or encounters happen in a meaningful way, beyond mere coincidence. When you meet someone who feels profoundly beautiful or significant, it could be an example of synchronicity, a moment that holds meaning in the context of your life or personal growth. However, not every meaningful encounter necessarily leads to a lasting connection. While the meeting may feel fated, like it's part of a larger cosmic pattern, the relationship may not progress. Jung would argue that this is not a failure of synchronicity, but rather that the purpose of the encounter may have been to offer insight or a lesson rather than to develop into a relationship. The powerful attraction you feel could be the result of a moment of alignment in your life or psyche, providing an opportunity for reflection, but without a deeper psychological or emotional alignment between both people, nothing more might come of it. This aligns with Jung's idea that synchronicity is about experiencing meaningful events, even if those events don't always lead to lasting outcomes. The importance of the individuation process. Jung's concept of individuation is central to his psychological theory. It refers to the lifelong process of becoming one's true self, integrating the conscious and unconscious aspects of the personality. Individuation is about personal growth, self-discovery, and achieving a sense of wholeness. When you meet someone who seems incredibly beautiful or perfect, it might spark an attraction. But if the two of you are not aligned in your respective individuation processes, a deeper connection may not develop. Jung suggested that true relationships form when both people are engaged in their own process of becoming whole and self-aware. Without this alignment, the attraction might remain superficial, with no emotional depth to sustain a lasting bond. The person you are attracted to may embody traits or qualities you admire, but if they are not also undergoing their own process of individuation, working on their personal growth and self-awareness, the connection may not reach its full potential. Even if the attraction is intense, the absence of a shared journey of self-realization can prevent a deeper relationship from forming. The separation between ideal and reality. One of the central themes in Jungian psychology is the tension between the ideal and the real. We often create idealized images of people, especially when they appear extraordinarily beautiful or captivating. These ideals are shaped by our desires, fantasies, and unconscious expectations. When we meet someone who aligns with these ideals, it can feel like an overwhelming attraction. However, this idealized image can often cloud our perception of reality. Jung would argue that true beauty and connection are not found in the pursuit of perfection or idealization. They are found in the acceptance of a person's full, authentic self, including their flaws and complexities. When you are enamored by someone's external beauty, it may be difficult to see them as a whole person. The attraction might be based on the idealized version of them that you've created in your mind. If the reality of who they are doesn't match this ideal, the relationship may stagnate or never materialize. Jung believed that true relationships arise when we move beyond idealization and embrace the whole person, flaws and all. This acceptance is necessary for building a genuine connection. Without it, the beauty you perceive may only be a fleeting fantasy, never evolving into something deeper. The shadow. The dark side of attraction. Jung's concept of the shadow refers to the unconscious part of the psyche that contains repressed weaknesses, desires, and instincts. The shadow represents the parts of ourselves that we deny or refuse to acknowledge. Often, the people we find attractive, especially in an intense or unsettling way, are those who reflect something about our own shadow. When you meet someone who seems stunningly beautiful, the attraction may not only be about their outward appearance, but also about how they reflect aspects of yourself that you've repressed. For example, someone may embody traits you admire, but have never allowed yourself to fully express, like confidence, creativity, or vulnerability. This can create a strong pull towards them, as they represent a part of yourself that you are disconnected from. However, the attraction might not lead to a meaningful relationship because your feelings are tied to projections of your shadow. Jung would suggest that such projections can create an emotional distance, even though there's an undeniable pull. Until both individuals are able to integrate their shadow and accept these repressed aspects of themselves, the attraction may remain one-sided or unfulfilled. Not every attraction should lead to something. Jung believed that not every encounter, no matter how intense the attraction, needs to lead to a relationship. Attraction can happen for many reasons, and sometimes the connection is simply a momentary experience meant to provoke growth or reflection, rather than evolve into something lasting. When you meet someone who feels incredibly beautiful but nothing comes of it, it may be because the attraction is meant to serve a different purpose. Perhaps the encounter sparks self-awareness or allows you to explore parts of your own psyche that you hadn't considered. Jung argued that these brief but intense connections are still valuable because they offer insight into our emotional landscape, even if they don't culminate in a relationship. The realization that not every attraction needs to result in a deeper connection can be liberating. It allows you to embrace these experiences without the pressure of having them lead to a next step. Beauty, attraction, and connection can exist in their own right, without needing to conform to societal expectations of relationships or romantic outcomes. The interdependence of relationship archetypes. Jung emphasized the role of archetypes in shaping human relationships. These archetypes, universal, inherited patterns of behavior, play a significant role in how we connect with others. When you meet someone who seems incredibly beautiful, it might be because they embody an archetype that resonates deeply with you, such as the lover, the hero, or the sage. However, for a relationship to develop beyond attraction, both people need to align in terms of their own archetypal dynamics. For instance, if you are attracted to someone because they embody a particular archetype, but they are not aligned with that same archetype or do not bring their own complementary archetypes to the interaction, no lasting bond may form. Jung believed that healthy relationships occur when the archetypes between two individuals interact harmoniously, allowing for mutual growth and understanding. If both individuals are not in tune with their respective archetypes or are unaware of how these archetypes influence their behavior and perceptions, the attraction may be short-lived. The beautiful person you meet might represent something important to you at a particular moment, but without a deeper connection of archetypal balance, the relationship may not evolve into something substantial. The depth of nonverbal communication. Jung often emphasized the significance of nonverbal communication in our interactions. Beyond what is spoken, our unconscious minds are constantly exchanging information through body language, tone, and subtle gestures. When you meet someone who seems incredibly beautiful, much of your attraction might stem from these nonverbal cues, the way they move, the energy they radiate, or the feelings they evoke without saying a word. This nonverbal connection might feel profound, yet it may not lead to anything more because true emotional and intellectual connection requires more than just surface-level exchanges. Jung would argue that while these unconscious exchanges are meaningful, they are only part of the equation. If the deeper, verbal and conscious communication isn't there, if the two of you cannot connect on an intellectual or emotional level, the beauty and the nonverbal signals may not be enough to sustain a relationship. In this sense, even though you might feel deeply drawn to someone based on how they present themselves unconsciously, a relationship needs a more conscious and integrated dialogue to move beyond attraction. Without it, the initial spark may flicker out, leaving you with a sense of beauty but no further connection.